Now, I'm sure it has happened to you at the beginning of a season. You plan out your goal race, maybe your tune-up races, and you have your training plan already, and you are so excited to get started with your new season. Your hopes are high, you're optimistic, you're feeling positive about your chances at running well, and maybe even setting a new personal best. But I got a fascinating question the other day from one of our team strength running members that I thought I should answer for everyone because it's really important. And this runner asked me, once I start a training season, once I'm running through my cycle and I'm doing the workouts and the long runs and I'm maybe a month or two in, how do I actually know if I'm progressing appropriately? It's a great question. How do you know if you are moving in the right direction? And so in this video, what I want to do is give you 3 ways to understand whether or not you are progressing properly in your training. Because the last thing that you want is to work really hard for months and months and then recognize that you haven't actually made any progress, your fitness has declined, and you aren't actually capable of running faster. So let's get started and talk about how you can know whether or not your fitness is improving and progressing appropriately. All right, so if you're going through your training cycle and you're just wondering, am I progressing properly? One of the most pragmatic ways of understanding whether or not you are actually moving forward and getting better is, well, are you actually able to do all of the work? And so throughout the week, can you do all of the running that you have planned? You don't have to take any days off because of excessive fatigue or soreness. Are you able to run your workouts at the pace that you should be running all of your workouts? And can you run the full distance of your long run? And if you're able to progress this way, to go through your training plan, to run all of the workouts, the long runs, the mileage, and maybe we'll say instead of all of it, maybe about 90% of it. If you can do 90% of all that work and you're still feeling okay, you're still not so sore, not so fatigued, then that's a great indication that you're on the right track and that you are able to do the work, get in all that training, and allow your body to properly recover from it and adapt to it. So that is tip number 1. Let's make sure that we can do the work, because if you're someone who's comfortable running, let's say about 30 or 40 miles a week, and you pick up a training plan that goes up to 70 miles a week, you probably won't be able to progress without getting injured or just getting so fatigued or sore that you can't complete the training. So always look at a training plan and make sure that the total volume of work that you're doing and also the intensity of it. So look at the workouts too. If that workload is challenging but still doable and you can get through week after week in the plan, then you're on the right track. Now, the other thing to look for in your training as you're going through a cycle is simply how you're feeling. Now, this is a little bit more subjective. It's going to be more difficult for the beginner runners, but if you've been running for a couple years, you start understanding how your body responds to stress and the demands of training. So take stock of how you're feeling both during and after all of your key workouts, and also just how you respond to the total workload of your training. And so here is where we get into problems of overtraining, because sometimes the training's so hard that you simply can't do it. And sometimes the training is hard enough that you can do it, but it's not a good idea. And if you train too hard for too long, you will inevitably run into overtraining syndrome. And this is a physiological response to too much stress. You're gonna find that your heart rate is really elevated even on easy runs, and you're simply not recovering. And it takes you a lot longer to recover from overtraining syndrome symptoms than it does from normal fatigue, normal soreness, and the normal effects of training and trying to help yourself get faster. And so as you go through these workouts and you're going through your training season, let's make sure that you're feeling okay from workout to workout and long run to long run. Let's make sure that you're not carrying in so much fatigue that your long runs are just a complete slog. Let's make sure that you are running your workouts with some level of competence. You actually feel fairly strong, you feel fast, you feel quick and responsive, because if you're constantly making all of your workouts feel like a slog, then you're probably not getting as much out of them. Now, of course, you're not gonna feel good for every workout or every long run that you do. That would be a little bit unrealistic. And especially for those performance-oriented runners who are really training hard, who are going after big goals, who are going after a personal best or a certain qualification, it's really important to make sure that not only are you able to do the work, but that you feel fairly good doing it. Of course, some days you're gonna be tired, some days you're gonna be sore, but it shouldn't be for every workout, it shouldn't be for every long run, and it should pass after a couple days. So if that fatigue and soreness is not resolving itself, and it's just getting almost worse and worse as you go through a cycle, that's a red flag. So definitely pay attention to whether or not you can do the work, and also how you feel while you're doing that work. Finally, the last thing that you want to look for is your actual performances. Yes, that's what we care about as runners, right? How you're doing in races. And so the last thing to look for, to know whether or not you're progressing properly within your training, let's look at your tune-up races. Now, of course, you are in the middle of hard training. It's somewhat unrealistic to expect a personal best in a tune-up race, especially if you're training for, let's say, a race like the half marathon and you do a 5K tune-up race. You are not training specifically for a 5K, and you're in the middle of half marathon training. So it would be really hard for you to run a 5K personal best in those conditions. And the same thing is true if you were to train for a marathon and then run a half marathon tune-up race. It's going to be really challenging to run a PR in the half marathon as you're deep in marathon training and not really training specifically for that race distance. Now, of course, if you do end up setting PRs, that's an incredible sign. That is how you know your training is progressing well and your fitness level is at its highest level. Now, even though those PRs are welcomed, it would be great if they happened. And of course, they are probably the best indication that your training is going well and progressing properly. That's probably a bit unrealistic. So I wouldn't necessarily expect every runner to have a personal best in a tune-up race. But instead, are you somewhat close to your PRs? Are you feeling okay during racing? Now, of course, the first race that you run during the season, that's your rust buster. You're probably not gonna feel great, and that's okay. But as you continue running tune-up races, are you feeling better? Are you getting the hang of racing? Are you practicing that skill of racing? Because if so, then you know that your racing is progressing, your fitness is progressing, and if you can get pretty close to your PRs in those tune-up races, then you know you have an excellent shot as you get closer to your goal race to go for a personal best. So there we have it. That is how to know whether or not your training is progressing appropriately during a training cycle and whether your fitness is really improving. And of course, many of these things you'll notice are subjective. How you're feeling, whether or not your tune-up races are going well. Even though you're not running a PR, can you tell that you're racing strong even if you're not running a personal best? So there's a lot of things to think about. If you're not sure what to do in these scenarios and you need a little bit of guidance, this original question came from a member of our team strength running group. This is our very affordable group coaching program that we have at Strength Running. I'll have a link underneath this video and in a card here on the video too, for you to learn more about the team and how having a coach and getting this kind of ongoing, consistent feedback and guidance about your training can really help you get more out of your training so that you can ultimately race a lot faster.